Welcome back to another episode of the Meal Prep Perspective. Join me and I'll share my process to make healthy, delicious meals to fuel my active lifestyle through nutrient-dense meal prep and without diet culture or food rules. We're starting this episode with an adventure in Brooklyn. Come with me to the West African market to get one of our ingredients. There are so many exciting ingredients here. I love stopping in and exploring, and I found what I was looking for. This is fonio. Fonio is a West African grain that's incredibly nutrient-dense. It's similar in size and texture to couscous and takes on the flavors of what you pair it with, like rice or quinoa. We'll see fonio in action later. And with that, let's get started. I'll start by getting my meal prep containers laid out onto the table and tell you I'm so happy you're here with me. Whether you're new to my channel or you've been with me for a minute, welcome. I'm Lisa, a New Yorker who works in the health and fitness industry. I share my weekly meal prep process to empower you to build healthy habits. You can probably tell I'm a little biased toward meal prepping, and that's because it's made an immense impact in my life. For me, I've gotten really clear on what healthy means, and for me it means saving time, energy, and money to align with the life I'm creating. Meal prep has become more than just a routine for me. It's truly a passion. I believe in sharing my authentic journey, my insights into my process, and I also love learning alongside my incredible community. All of you share the best tips and tricks. I studied public health nutrition at NYU, and although I completed my master's degree, learning is never over for me, and I stay up to date on nutrition recommendations for individuals and populations. There's endless nutritional misinformation and fear-mongering around nutrition, so I'll help you sort through the noise. If you have a question and I don't have an answer to your question, I'll research it and circle back with you. Plus, I always reply to my comments. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to like this video, share with a friend, and subscribe so we can do it all together. And with that, here's what's on my menu this week. For breakfast, I make cottage cheese protein bagels with sheet pan egg whites and scallions. Lunch, Southwest bean salad with chicken and fonio. And for dinner, Armenian lahmajoun and rice. And stick around to see how I serve these. I'm beginning with some veggie prep. I'm dicing my red and yellow peppers for my lunch, and I'm using my handy dandy food chopper. I love this thing so much, but I do have to cut my peppers down so they'll fit inside. But I can definitely confirm that using this is faster than cutting these all by hand. I love this thing. And generally, I love anything that helps me get some time back and make meal prep go just a little bit faster. I'm getting these diced up, and I'll put them into my big bowl. Okay, great. All of these are chopped. If only I could chop them this fast in real life, as fast as I did when I sped up the video. That would be amazing. Maybe a little dangerous too, but I digress. I'll get these stirred up and get them mixed together, and then I'm gonna actually put these into my fridge because I'm not ready to use them quite yet. And now we're jumping to breakfast. I'm making my cottage cheese protein bagels, and yes, I've been making these a lot because they are delicious. I really love having that savory part of breakfast, and they really satisfy that nutrient-dense meal that I love at breakfast, which, you know, I've got protein, I've got fats, I've got carbs, lots of fiber. It's just so fantastic. They're great. And pairing them with eggs is just such a win too. If that's something that you like, an egg sandwich, this is so perfect for breakfast. Anyway, I made these again, and this time I added another ingredient because I feel like if you change up the ingredient, you don't feel like you're eating the same thing every week. So this time I added, well, you'll see in a second. You'll also see the absolute distress that I went into in a minute when I realized that I had broke a nail. Ugh, I know I hate complaining about it. I hate even saying it, but ouch. I had to, complain to my husband for a second, but ugh, not a good feeling. Something that rarely happens to me either, so ugh. Anyway, I moved on. I rallied, even though I was definitely not happy. I'll get my dry ingredients mixed up here, and then I'll get out my cutting board, and my ingredient I'm going to add this week is scallions or green onions, whichever you prefer. But I love when I buy these, they have the roots on them. I'll put them in water, and then they kind of just go wild, and these had gone a little too wild, so they really needed to be used up because they started so small and they had grown so much. So I'm going to cut these up. I'm going to remove the kind of like dried part, the brown part at the top, and I just cut them like right in the middle I probably could have used scissors, but my knife was right there, so I made it work. But I'm gonna get these sliced up and I'm gonna put them into my bagel mix. The other reason I keep making these is because I want to perfect the recipe, and I have a little secret to tell you guys. Should I just tell you, or should I tease it a little bit more? I think I'm gonna wait a little bit, but I've been working on something really exciting, and this is hopefully gonna be part of it one day. But I am seriously so excited to tell y'all what I've been working on recently, and I would love to actually hear what you think. What do you think I'm hinting at? Leave a comment and share what you think my little secret is. I'll reveal it really soon, don't worry. I'll get these mixed up, and I'm getting better at this. I wonder if this would be easier with a stand mixer. I don't have a stand mixer, but that's my thought while mixing these by hand and making a bit of a mess again. But do any of my bakers watching have any ideas to make this easier to mix up? If you do, please comment, please share, help me. All right, I'll get these mixed up and I'll let them rest for a few minutes. All right, now we're ready to turn these into bagels. I've got some parchment paper on my sheet pans, I've got some flour on my counter, and I'm gonna start making these into my bagels. I'll add another little note about making kind of the same thing, week after week, or like repeating recipes. For me, I don't know why, for breakfast, I could eat the same thing for breakfast all day, every day, if the flavor is a little different. So like, I won't repeat the same exact recipe to the T next time I make these, but doing it like this, I feel like you kind of get some of your favorites, you get down some things you really love, and then you can just change it up. So like for years, every single week, I used to make my protein, like bread, bramble, bar, whatever you want to call it. It was a flour-based, really high protein breakfast thing that I would just change the fruit of every single week. We ate this for years and years, and I still repeat it here and there. I started changing it up a little bit. I haven't made it in a while. Maybe I should make it. But I love finding these recipes that you can repeat. They're easy to repeat, and they're things that you love. So highly encourage you all to do that too. Find the things that you really like. Maybe it's these cottage cheese protein bagels. Maybe it's something else, but find something that you love that you can repeat and make it feel a little different each time you make it. I think that's part of the key too. Anyway, just another fun little tip for y'all. So I'll get these formed into bagels, and then I'll clear my counter off. All right, these babies are almost ready to go in the oven, but I am going to give them an egg wash. I have some liquid egg whites here because I'm going to use them in my sheet pan eggs. So I'm going to get some poured into a bowl, and then I'm brushing the tops of all of these so they can have that beautiful bagel finish, even though we didn't follow the traditional bagel process. Now that the bagels are in the oven, we'll get the egg whites onto my sheet pan. So I'm going to use the remaining of what I used to brush the tops of the bagels, and I'm also going to cut up and add in the rest of these scallions to my egg whites. Time to add my egg whites. You probably noticed I didn't add any cooking spray on here, and I don't really need it because I'm using the parchment paper, and the eggs kind of steam a little bit too, so they generally fall right off the parchment paper, no problem. I'll add a little bit of salt and pepper on these, and then they'll go into the oven. Okay, great. Breakfast is in the oven, and now I'm going to move on to the chicken I'm going to have my husband grill. I love this little container from Cuisinart. My aunt got it for me for, I think, my birthday or my wedding registry, and I think of her every time I use it, but I really do love this little contraption. It makes it really easy. So if you had a marinade that had a lot of liquid and you wanted to let it drain out, you could leave that little basket inside. Since I'm going to grill these pretty quickly and it's not marinating for a long time, I took it out. You can also use that little basket directly on the grill. So love that. We love something that makes our lives just a little bit easier. I'll season my chicken breast with some freshly squeezed lime juice, salt, cayenne pepper, garlic powder, red pepper flakes, and I'll make sure they're all evenly coated in the mixture before I let them marinate for a few minutes, and then I'll pass them off to my husband to grill. He's got those cooking on the grill, and I'll get my rice started back inside. Next, I'll sanitize my counter, and then I'll get moving on my next task. This is the fonio I picked up at the beginning of this video, and like I mentioned earlier, it's highly nutrient dense and it's very simple to prepare. This is the brand that they had in the West African market, but I also really like the brand Yolele, and Yolele has seasoned and unseasoned ones too. As you can see, this is similar in size and texture to couscous, so it's super fine and small. In the same way that rice, couscous, pasta, and quinoa don't really have much of a flavor until you add something to it, fonio is the same. I'm only saying this because, especially when you try a new ingredient, it's important to have your expectations set. So on its own, this is not a wow, but just like these other ingredients, it will take on the flavor of whatever you add to it. We're going to treat this similar to rice, and then we'll let it sit in the water for a second, and then we'll rinse it and wash it until the water's clear. Texture here feels really similar to sand, actually. Maybe not as gritty, but that's kind of what I'd compare it to. So I got it washed, rinsed, and then I drained the water because I want to measure how much water I'm going to put in here. I'm adding boiling water here, and I don't know if I even follow the package instructions now that I think about it. I just did what my friend told me to do, who's from Guinea, and I just followed her instructions. So I'll add my boiling water, and then I'll stir it and set it aside for a few minutes. Next, I'm getting my bagels and egg whites out of the oven. I'm going to slice up the egg whites and portion them out. The bagel and egg whites together will keep great in the fridge for the first few days, but I'll keep them in the freezer for the end of the week meal prep days because the bagel and the eggs have different water content, so they won't store perfectly together. We'll utilize that freezer. Now that they're all portioned out and into the containers, I've got a few bagels left, which I'll keep in the freezer for breakfast on weekend days when I can't be bothered with making breakfast. Next, I'll grab that fonio that was sitting to the side after I added my boiling water in. I'll give it a stir and I'm gonna microwave it. To me, it's this step where this really becomes similar to couscous in that after I microwave it, it really does look a lot like couscous. I'm gonna fluff it up with my fork, stirring it really well, and you'll see the texture here in just a second. See, doesn't that kind of look like couscous? So I'll stir this up a bit more and then I'm gonna let it cool off, so I'll set it to the side and be on to the next task. And now I'm moving on to my dinner meal. Honestly, looking back at this as I watch this back and edit this content, I don't really know why I felt like I needed to use the food chopper to chop this up. Probably just could have put it in the blender. Again, hindsight 2020. It's very interesting to cook and then watch it back and be like, should I have done that? Should I have done that differently? So I think if I were to do this again, I don't necessarily think I needed to chop up these veggies, but I did. So I added my cherry tomatoes to the blender, and then I'm gonna chop up my onions in the food chopper as well, garlic and jalapeno. Now that everything's in the blender, I'm just missing my tomato paste, so I'll add that in and then blend this up. I'm not sure I said it yet, but what I'm making right here is the base for my Armenian lahmajoun. So these lahmajouns are something I've been wanting to make for a long time for meal prep, and I'm so glad that I did. They were so fun, so delicious, and a nod to my Armenian heritage. And lahmajoun are traditional Armenian pizzas. So to my understanding, many other cultures adjacent to Armenia have similar little pizzas like this, but these ones I followed maybe a traditional inspiration, but really made it my own. This was really fun to make, and I am so excited to cook even more Armenian things in the future. I have so much to learn. Previous to this, I added in some salt and some cayenne, and I also realized I needed to taste it. So I gave it a taste and decided I thought it needed just a little bit more salt. So I'll add the salt in, toss it back onto the blender, and then I also realized I forgot to add cumin, so I added some of that in here as well and back onto the blender again. Okay, so now that I took this on and off the blender 10 more times it was necessary, we can move on to the next step, which is going to be adding in my meat, and I used ground turkey for these. I know traditionally it's not ground turkey, but I really wanted to keep this light, lean, and easy. So I found lavash bread from Trader Joe's. They actually had it there, but lavash is perfect for these, so I was thinking I might have to do it on pita bread, but it worked out. I found it, so yay. So I'll get my ground turkey into my bowl, then I'm gonna add in this tomato veggie mix. I was really careful to season the tomato and veggie mix before I added it into the ground meat, because obviously once I did I couldn't taste it, so that's why I tasted it previously. I made sure it was good, and then I knew that this would give great flavor to the ground turkey. So now I'm gonna mix this up really well and incorporate all of the tomato veggie mixture in with the ground turkey. Now that everything's mixed really well, I'll get out my sheet pans and my lavash, and then also I'll add some parchment paper to the bottom of my sheet pans just in case these stick, although I don't think they will. So these actually split in half, which ended up being perfect, and they fit really well onto my sheet pan. So now that I've got them onto the sheet pan, I'll do the same to my other sheet pan and fill it up with lavash as well. And here comes the fun part, the pizza part, if you will. So I'm gonna scoop my ground turkey, my veggie, my tomato mix onto my lavash, and I'm gonna start spreading it out. I really wasn't sure how much was the right amount to put on here, so I did, realize I think I could go a little heavier, just a little more thicker on these as well as I went, but I portioned it out first because I just wanted to see and understand how much was too much. I'll spread those out all here, and I actually ended up even with some extra ones that we had for lunch this day as well. So I'll get these all spread out and then I'll pop them into the oven, and don't forget to stick around. I'll show you how I served them in a little bit. All right, now we're hopping back to lunch. I've got my peppers out of the fridge and I'm gonna sanitize my counter just so I know it's clean. I had some raw turkey on here. So I'll sanitize my counter and then I'm getting ready to make my Southwest black bean chicken fonio goodness. I'll get all of my ingredients out here. I've got cilantro, my chicken, black beans, lime, and I'll get my fonio out too. It's cooled off a bit and I'll get it into the bowl with my peppers. Now that that's mixed in well, I'm going to get some fire roasted corn out of the freezer and I'm going to thaw it in the microwave quickly and then I'll add it in here. That's in the microwave. I'm going to rinse and drain my black beans and then I'll mix that in as well. Now it's time to add our corn in. We'll mix it in really well and then we'll get to the next ingredient. Now it's time to cut up all of this grilled chicken. I'll get to work here and then we'll mix that in as well. And now this is almost complete. I'm going to add cilantro. So I'm going to cut the stems off. I'm going to use those in a minute, but I'm going to use the leaves of the cilantro and I'm going to dice them up pretty finely and then I'll toss them in here too. Alright, now that all of our ingredients in here, we'll give this one final mix. And honestly, probably could have just mixed it all at once, but I love watching the colors come together. So look at how pretty and vibrant this is. So much flavor, so many ingredients, so many nutrients. Remember, different colors equal different nutrients. So this one is a win. And I'm not done with it yet. I'm getting it portioned into my containers and then I'll show you guys the sauce that I made to go with it and how I served it. I'm going to make use of those cilantro stems and I've got some Greek yogurt. I'm going to add these into my blender along with some lime juice and then I'm going to pop them onto the blender. I gave this a little taste test and it was good, but I knew it needed something else. So I definitely wanted to add in some salt here and some other spices. So I added in garlic powder, onion powder, cayenne, cumin, and it just really gave it life. And we're off the blender. We'll give it a final taste and oh, it's perfect, delicious, chef's kiss. Oh yeah, it's just great when you can just throw something together. It really is a skill. One that I know all of you have. If you've been here with me, you've been developing that skill too. I'll pour a little bit onto each one and then I'll show you how I served it. I served it with some tortilla chips. I ate it like this some days and some days I just ate it plain regular from the bowl, but it was so good and I loved adding that little bit of crunch to it. Yum. And back to the day of, I'll get the sauce into all of these bowls and then lunch will be done. And now dinner's done too. Yay, we're getting close to being done. Woo! I was absolutely delighted with how delicious these turned out. They were definitely crispy and I had to do some strategizing of how to fit them into the meal prep containers, but they were so delicious. I think they turned out so well. I like how crispy they were. And so once I figured out how to get them folded up and into the containers, we were in business. All right, and here's how I served these. So I had some labne. I added some olive oil, some red pepper flakes, some salt, and my favorite crunchy greens mix, and I rolled them up. They were delicious. Oh my gosh, I think I should make these again. They were so good. Highly, highly recommend. And it's fun to add some other ingredients too when you can, which is how my schedule's been working lately, and I've been loving that I can add something like a fresh ingredient when I serve them. So yay, love that. Now I'll finish this meal out with some white rice, and that I just ate alongside these. I didn't do anything else to that. Now that my rice is portioned out into all of my containers, that's a wrap on meal prep. Look at these beauties. Oh, there's no better feeling than having this all set for the week ahead. Although maybe taking a nap after meal prep's done, that's pretty satisfying too. Wishing you the most wonderful week ahead. Don't forget to hit subscribe, like this, leave a comment, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!